And just like that, we are back with chapter 61 of the universe according to Mugsy. Today is Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Spring is in the air. It is getting warmer on the East Coast. We can feel those days of summer coming. I am so excited. This broadcast, this podcast, I cannot wait to get back out into the woods and the environment so that this background is not the only thing that you have to see. Doesn't it look like I'm trying to brainwash myself? That's exactly what it looks like. And we're going to talk a lot about brainwashing today. And just when I started this broadcast, I said the synchronicities are starting to align up for us. 3, 3 and 3 is 6, 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 5 is 9, 9 and 6 is 15. 1 and 5 is 6. 3, 6, and 9 are the things that Nikola Tesla told me to pay attention to, which must mean that the synchronicities for this broadcast are aligning. I wonder what we're going to get into. Now, you may be saying to yourself, this guy is nuts. Why is he paying attention to those numbers as if they are somewhat relevant to him? It is because I brainwashed myself. I brainwashed myself to think like one of the smartest people that I could ever imagine, and that was Nikola Tesla. And he said, if you understood the context of 3, 6, and 9 and their importance, the significance and their importance in the universe, you would have the keys to the universe. Now, I don't understand it, but I'm always looking for those numbers. I brainwash myself in the same way that I have brainwashed myself to think about energy, frequency, vibration at all times. It's the same way that I am able to sit here and do this podcast, this broadcast for you people and explain the current events that are happening. And I can relate them back to the culture and then bring it back down to your own consciousness, which is where I want to start this. Because I can feel in the air that there's a lot of people thinking about the Milgram experiments, the brainwashing experiments from the 1960s. Now, these brainwashing experiments are not the clandestine ones that you may think a conspiracy theorist may be referring to. I am just talking about the ones that happened at Yale University under doctor supervision, where, if you're not familiar, there were 2 actors in on this. One of them was dressed as a doctor, and this doctor, the person who they were experimenting on, was in the room with the doctor. And then in another room behind a partition, there was another individual who was allegedly hooked up to electrodes. Now, this doctor told the person in the experiment, the doctor's the actor, to start electrocuting the person. Now, this person started reacting violently, started pleading for their life, and the doctor would just say, the experiment must continue, you must continue to increase the voltage. So that person continued to increase the voltage until the person was screaming so excruciatingly it sounded like they were dying. And then all of a sudden that person went silent. The actor on the other side of the partition went silent. And the doctor instructed the person that they were running the experiment on to increase the voltage and continue. Now, 66% of the time, the doctor was successful in getting the experiment participant to increase that voltage and essentially kill someone behind the partition without their knowledge. That's because these Milgram experiments are experiments on obedience to authority. Now, I brainwash myself with things that I choose because I am aware that there is so much brainwashing going on out there. The Milgram experiments are just a tiny little fraction of all of the grooming that different corporations and individuals and groups of people are trying to do to your mind to put you in a position where you respond in a certain way to a certain question at a certain time, like brainwashing, like Jason Bourne. This is all everyday stuff that is out there. They knew this way back in the 60s, and my guess is they probably knew it way before that. So what do they know now? What do they know now if they were thinking in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, how people can be controlled with things like blue light coming in from your cell phone, or the vibrations of the songs that you listen to in your ears, giving you this experience that comes from somewhere and can be programmed behind the scenes, almost as if you're being hypnotized into responding to certain questions in certain ways. And that is why you come to me. Because you were thinking, oh my God, I've heard this synchronicity stuff before. It was from some crazy broad that I was dating back in the day. She called herself an empath and she connected to nature in different ways. And I thought that broad was crazy. But now Mugsy the Creator in chapter 61 of the universe, according to Mugsy, is bringing that back up. And he's saying synchronicities might be real and that I might be brainwashed. I'm creating cognitive dissonances, just like that experiment those Yale doctors did. You have your own moral compass that's telling you these sounds that are coming through on the other side of this wall. And this doctor, who's supposed to represent authority, your mind, your morals are saying, I don't think I should do this. But you are being tested on how obedient you're going to be to that doctor that's telling you, just do it, just do it, just do it. What's the worst that could happen? I'm a doctor. I went to med school. Just believe me. Listen to me. Do not believe your own eyes and your own ears, okay? Now, secret societies are at the top level of this. If people can be programmed and we can get you to do something, we must find a way to brainwash your mind so that you can forget it, right? That's all part of the same branch of science that they were doing there. Programming human beings so that they can fulfill certain tasks, or we can manage large-scale sums of humans. Okay, people? That's the consciousness section. I just need you to be familiar with the fact that this is something that happens all the time. Because if this is starting to scare you, your reality is going to be a whole lot worse than that. Because people are scared to admit that secret societies are something that absolutely exists, even though it's something that they've seen in real life and maybe even partaken in. Okay, it's nothing different than an exclusive club that you can't get into. Those are secret societies. You know about most of them because most people are horrible at keeping a secret, okay? When they're in a country club or when they're in a fraternity or a sorority, all right? These are all just different levels of secret clubs that you need to get initiated into, or you need to purchase your way into because you've been initiated in some other way, shape, or form to have the money to be able to purchase this next initiation. What's the highest levels of this stuff? Scientology, religion, okay? That's where all of this goes. That's where all of the Milgram experiments end in today's culture, is you see them playing out before your eyes, where you don't get to know all the information that you believe until you reach the highest level of the Freemasons or the Illuminati. These are not fake things. These are all things that exist and they interact in your life, so you best know about them. And if you don't want them to brainwash you, you better brainwash yourself first. And that is what I try and do every morning with my gratitude and with just the things that I continually look back and reflect back to myself in my life. Now, where did I want to take this conversation? There's so much going on in the world. Tulsi Files, I can't believe it. That's not where we want to start, but I guess it's where we'll come back to. Elon Musk. How could we not start this conversation with Elon Musk? He is at the center of so much going on in the world that's going to have an effect on your life. Now, he is sitting in the White House going back and forth from Washington, D.C., and he's working on DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and some of the things that he is finding is alarming. Because a lot of you out there have taken business classes. You've taken accounting, you've taken finance, you've taken business management, you've taken operations, or just general basic economic supply and demand, or you have managed a household budget. I know that you know whether you have enough money to go out for beers this weekend, or take your wife on a fucking nice date or something, or go on a vacation. You know if you got that much money in your wallet today. So when we start pulling back USAID and the entire government budget, and what we find is an open checkbook where you don't have to balance it at the end of the day, you don't even have to write in what it was for, that is absolute insanity. The way that Elon related it is we went in and we looked for all of the systems that we're used to looking for, and then we tried to think outside the box. Maybe the government has come up with their own tracking and payment system, because we couldn't conceive of the fact That there was just no tracking system whatsoever for this money. No one had to declare what it was for. It was essentially a blank checkbook, and it wasn't like one person had access to this checkbook. It was dozens, hundreds, thousands of different organizations working back and forth off of each other. And I think the Social Security numbers is an important one that we should hang around on, because what was revealed was there's a whole bunch of dead people on the Social Security roster. Now, immediately what we were told is, don't worry about it. Checks aren't cut out to anybody over the age of 100 is manually reviewed because of the system that we use. So what are all those people from 100 to age 300, 400, thousands of them in there for? Why haven't they been removed? That is what allows this waste and fraud to continue, because most of these interagency databases don't talk to each other and they don't communicate, or they don't communicate well. So someone could still be collecting Medicare checks off a Social Security person because they're still alive in the database. These are just some of the things that are being revealed. Now, I do not think Elon is the world's savior for all of this. I don't think he's the savior for the country. But does that mean we have to knock him for doing something, I don't know, 10 years ago we all were asking for, we have been begging for, especially on the left? I know, because I lived in Massachusetts for most of my life, and I remember hearing all the people begging them to audit the government. Why won't anybody audit the government? And now here we have this guy, Elon Musk, who I agree is not perfect, and the things that he is finding is alarming. But the reason that he is finding them is because Donald Trump has enabled Elon Musk to go in there and audit the government. Why are we not on the same page? How come we are not on the same page? It doesn't make any sense anymore. It really doesn't make any sense anymore, people. Why are we not, as Americans, wanting the same thing? To end this fraud, waste, and abuse that is happening to us. We're afraid that they're going to cut some beneficial program. Here's what's happening. Did you guys know that we're paying for full medicine, Medicare for all, not for United States citizens, but for the citizens of several other countries? Ah! That really gets you, doesn't it? That's what they think of you. The citizens of this country, the taxpayers, who they are literally abusing as if they were slaves, laughing in your goddamn face. I don't know why you think brainwashing is such a crazy thing to be out there when we look at the reality of how our money is being allocated, who we are choosing to trust our money with, and what they are doing with it in front of our eyes. We are the Milgram Experiment right now. The Milgram Experiment is happening all the time to us. That's what I'm trying to say to you people. The whole purpose of this program is to expand the collective consciousness. The consciousness is our own understanding of reality. And how can you understand reality if you don't even understand all the brainwashing that's going on right now? All the brainwashing that's happening in the world. Now, Elon's an interesting character to talk about. I love talking about him. Because in his most recent conversation with Joe Rogan, Elon Musk could not fathom a world in which anyone was doing any UFO experiments behind the scenes other than him. That's what he wants you to believe. That's what he was saying in that conversation with Joe, as he's revealing all of the DOGE things that are going on. And pause for a minute, because can we talk about Vivek Ramaswamy? Ramana, who cares anymore? Vivek leg cake. Who cares, dude? Screw you. As soon as push came to shove and you had to sign your name next to Elon Musk's as being one of the people who's cut all of this bull crap out of the American budget, you got yourself away from this DOGE program as soon as you could. Right when that HB1, H1B, whatever the hell it is, visa thing, revealed that you were a fraud, that's it, you were out. Because now Elon Musk is doing the exact same thing he was doing at Twitter in a sense. He's figuring out what in the hell's going on. He's sending emails out to people so we can figure out if they're even still employed. Are they smart enough to even respond to emails? Or are all of them professional mouse jigglers at home? I cannot wait to see what this country looks like when we remove half of this crap, this infrastructure, because all of those humans are energy that can be rechanneled to do something meaningful for our society, and anything is more meaningful than actively destroying it from the inside. Oh my God, where were we? We were hating on Elon Musk. We were about to get there, because people talk about Elon's takeover of Twitter as if they understand what in the hell they're talking about. Most people can't conceive of what it's like to walk into a tech corporation that has been operating almost the exact same way since its inception. Remove 85% of the people that work at that corporation. Improve the product exponentially more than was designed throughout the entire implementation of that company, and make it profitable, all while at the same time handling somewhat of a mutiny from inside and disentangling what was Twitter, now X, from its deep state ties of the military-industrial complex, non-government institutions that have found their way in through the front or back doors or side doors that they built in the institution to make it somewhat independent and profitable, and allow and return some substance of free speech that was no longer allowed. And numbers are really important, because there was zero free speech on the internet during the 2020 election. That was how we were able to effectively remove our now president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, from office. And now that we have one, Twitter, that allows some level of free speech, we see now that there is an entire change in the social media landscape. And now all of the other social media corporations have to bow down and capitulate to the Twitter trend of freedom of speech that is happening, that is going on, because if there is somewhere people can speak freely, that is the place that they will go. And Elon Musk knows that absolutely 150%. He bet the entire farm on it, and every time Elon makes a bet, he fucking wins, more or less. And if he doesn't, I want to know why. I want to know absolutely why. Now, I told you, I don't think Elon's the savior. How could I be saying all these good things? How could I be saying all these good things about Elon and what he did at Twitter Corp, and how it put pressure on the entire Silicon Valley tech industry itself to drive more reimagination, reproduct design, and definitely remove all of the infrastructure overhead, these excess elites that have embedded themselves in the corporation that are really just sucking it down. And we saw everyone in Silicon Valley follow suit with their layoffs, whether it's Meta, Amazon, Google, you name it. All of them. All of this was a cascade that was caused by Elon Musk in his drive for efficiency and things to run as they should, which is why he has the ability to run all of his corporations like SpaceX and Tesla so efficiently. Oh my God. Now this guy, also, simultaneously, he is telling you all of the money that he sees that has been stolen and reallocated somewhere that he cannot come up with the idea where it's coming from. He is 100% sure nobody has developed technology capable beyond him. That is a cognitive dissonance. That is some brainwashing that he must have to do to himself every morning when he gets up. And I don't know what type of Elon Musk brainwashing you would have to do to yourself to be able to live in that reality where you see $4.7 trillion stolen from the American people, and it went funneled to back doors, probably the military-industrial complex itself. That's the logical conclusion someone like Elon Musk would jump to. And he is at the same time seeing all of these things happen in front of his eyes. What he's saying to you, the American people, is I cannot conceive of anybody developing rocket technology beyond what I have developed at SpaceX. It is by far the best. I know that because I do 95% of these rocket launches around the world, and the rest of the world attributes for 5%. Sure, Elon. Sure. If we are to believe physics in the way that physics exists. But if I see one UFO in the sky, if I see one more floating object in the sky, floating around, hovering, whether it's UFO, alien, or anything else, what that means is all of our understanding of physics is out the fucking window, buddy. It's all gone kapoof, kapa, never existed. Now, are you saying to me you could never imagine any other type of physics? Elon, smartest man in the universe, smartest man in the planet, smartest man in the country. You couldn't think of one other way beyond the way that you take off on Earth to get out there into space? How about Star Trek? I'm sure Star Trek comes up with a lot of things. There's nothing in Star Trek at all that we think might be similar to something that could be done. What about the pyramids, Elon? I want to talk about the pyramids. I want to talk about zero-point energy. I want to talk about other ways that we could power cars, vehicles, spaceships, things like that. How much have you investigated? How much research and development do you think $4.7 trillion gets you, Elon? That's the truth of it, right? That cognitive dissonance is either going on in Elon Musk's head, which I don't believe it is. Come on, guys. Read in between the lines. This guy's scared for his life. He devoted a large portion to the end of the podcast with Joe Rogan discussing it. And he actively fears for his life. And if I were him, I would fear for my life too. All the things he's got going on. Because my guess is he's still alive because he keeps his mouth shut so well. All of the ties keep him important enough because he allows enough of his technology to disseminate into the larger scale economy, if you will, that he has developed inside the public light, the area of the public realm, not in those deep, dark, secluded, clandestine locations that we are not supposed to know about. If there's invisibility cloaking technology, these rocket ships could be happening without Elon Musk's knowledge, right? Unless he's radaring the whole planet. Oh, wait, that's right. He's trying to do that. He's trying to put his satellites almost as if they're a blanket enveloping the whole planet. Now, I think Elon is a nice guy, but we should talk about that cognitive dissonance that's going on in his brain and maybe the secret things he's talking about, or maybe the secret things that he knows that he's not talking about, before we allow this guy to put an electronic blanket around planet Earth and get in the way of us and the sun, which is just information. And that's really all I could think about when I was listening to that Elon Musk interview with Joe Rogan. All I could think about was everything is binary. Everything in life is binary code. Right now, you're watching this podcast on a computer, or you're listening to it through your ears through an audio recording. Either way, this podcast is just a series of zeros and ones that is recorded in a certain fashion that I broadcast out into the world. That's it. And zeros and ones are just penises and vaginas. That's it. Zero's a vagina, could be anything. One's a penis. I don't know why, but everything reverts back down to that nature. Everything in the universe reverts back down to that nature. When you look at what he's doing at SpaceX with those rocket ships, they sure look like a dick. And the universe really does look like a vagina, and it's almost like you're trying to get to another egg that would be Mars. And in that podcast that you did with Joe Rogan, that conversation that you had, Elon Musk, what you said is, I'm an alien and I'm trying to return to my home planet because maybe it could host life again. But you got to get your dick and our semen up into the atmosphere vagina of space before you can land on that egg and you can inhabit it yourself. Now that's some weird, crazy scientific shit. But it's all happening in real time. Which one of those things? Spot the lie, right? Spot the lie. Anybody who's an engineer or an encoder can surely break down everything to binary code and understand that the carbon fibers are really just carrying the electricity that is the pattern of those zeros and ones until it gets to another hard drive for it to run its program on. Like I said, I brainwash myself in the morning because I don't want anyone else doing it. Because we are all just running programs. That's it. And I think Elon Musk knows that. I definitely think Elon Musk knows that. And I think Elon Musk's idea about getting us into space is really interesting. But I think as a society, maybe we should have a few more conversations before we just hand over the keys. And I do not think most people would think that that's where I was going to land on that conversation. It's crazy. It's a wild world we live in, but I think that as these conversations are going on, it's important for us to remember that these things are real. Everything from the secret societies to the brainwashing. And if someone is telling you they want to go to another planet to diversify our life, maybe they know some things that we don't. And maybe we should continue to have more conversations like the one they're having that Joe had with Elon. And we should definitely have more conversations about the United States and how they spend their money, because it is absolutely nuts. I'm glad to see that the Ukraine crisis is hopefully in the days of being resolved, but I don't necessarily like the way that I see it going down. I watched just a few snippets of Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance interviewing or accosting Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of the Ukraine, and really dressing him down publicly on a live television broadcast, which the United States audience hadn't seen in a very long time. To me, immediately, I said, this is Hollywood. This is not for me. I'm not its intended audience. This is a show of strength. For whom? I don't know if it's to the American public. I don't know if it's to the international world. I don't know if it's to world leaders. Because in this moment, what I think is, for the last 4 years, a lot of foreign countries did not know who was in charge in the United States of America. And with that interview, that little Hollywood performance with Zelensky, who was a former comedian and Hollywood actor, or not in Hollywood, but in the Ukraine, seemed like that performance. It is remarkable to think that this guy has just been G.I. Joeing around the planet, never one time dressing up the same way that all these other foreign dignitaries do to come ask for money. He was literally playing a role and he was dressing the part, and he never changed his clothes, which was just a weird thing that Trump and Vance certainly nailed, despite the way you may have felt about the way in which they nailed it. I don't think it necessarily made the United States look the best. But who am I to judge? I do not know where that intended audience was for, but I love the idea of the Ukraine conflict with Russia ending, if not just for the millions of people that have been displaced and or killed. I mean, it's pretty crazy that we know now that this conflict didn't even have to happen. Weeks into the conflict, there was a negotiated settlement on the table that's going to look very similar to the settlement that's going on now. But as has been revealed, there's a lot more value in the minerals underneath the Ukraine and those ports, those cities, and maybe who knows what other, the breadbasket of the United States just for their economy alone, and maybe some labs, biolabs that could or could not be allegedly around that region. There was a lot more value to it than maybe most people understood. And it is just as corrupt as everyone would have told you in the early 2000s, late 90s, whatever. If you go back just a few years and you start looking at the same people that are talking now, they were saying some crazy different things. And because of the roll of the dice and the way things turned out, now you get to watch them all now. Play them back on YouTube or listen to old broadcasts, and you can see the two people saying the two things. Do not let that cognitive dissonance that exists in their mind exist in your mind. You need to pick a side. Which way were they telling the truth? Is it now or was it then? And where are we at now? You need to figure out where you are in your own reality. That's all I'm really trying to help you do. So we covered a lot today. This was kind of a crazy way to get back into the swing of things. That was a weird interview. But you probably were not the intended audience for that Ukrainian interview. There is an awesome interview on the Joe Rogan Experience with someone talking about brainwashing. It was the episode before the Elon Musk interview. There's so much happening in the world. We will keep up on some of the politics, some of the current events as they happen. We will talk about them and relate them back to the culture that we are collectively creating. And I will continually tell you that you are the only one with the power to change anything in your life. It's through your consciousness, all right? So continue to eat healthy, continue to breathe, and continue to laugh at yourself. And I hope that you continue to join me along on this journey. Patreon.com/MugsyTheCreator. Like, subscribe, follow along. I am on Twitter, Instagram, Rumble, YouTube, Patreon, and just about any other place you can try and find me. Take back your consciousness. I love you. It has been a pleasure, and I'm out.